Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, subscribers, viewers, and all supporters of this channel. This video is about ISO 14001 version 2015 and international standard for the environmental management system. And this video is about how do we identify environmental aspects. Okay, before we go on, my Muslim brothers and sisters, if you are already in the mosque for the Friday prayers or other religious events and sessions and lessons, please do not watch this video. I love you for not doing that. Thank you very much. I wish you blessed with Jannatul Naim. Okay, but what is environmental management system ISO 14001? It is managing environmental aspect. This is the definition. How? By fulfilling compliance obligation and addressing risk and opportunities. All right, that's the definition of the environmental management system ISO 14001 version 2015. But what is environmental aspect? It is element of the organizational activities, product and services that interacts or can interact with the environment. Again, that's the definition by the ISO. My comprehension based on 36 years of experience in applied environmental management and sciences, I reckon that environmental aspects is anything, not a process name. It is anything, substance, matter. It could be raw material, it could be waste, it could be solid waste, liquid waste, gaseous waste, it could be the various forms of raw materials. It could also be machines, tools, the process, physical setup, the reaction tank itself, the factory building. In agriculture, it could be the pesticides, nutrient, fertilizers, etc. that interacts or can interact with the environment. Got it? Now, this video, I am going to show you immediately after this the process of identification of environmental aspects is derived from these in mechanical engineering and chemical engineering principle of mass balances. Input, output. So that's the methodology in identifying environmental aspect. Now after this, immediately after this, I will show you where does this process fit in the entire summarized chronology of the implementation of ISO 14001. I'm going to show you a simple chronology and I will show you where it fits in. And then we will view with an example, which is solvent recovery here. We'll take that. I'm not the expert in solvent recovery anyway, but we'll take that as an example to do the input-output analysis and identify and rationalize the environmental aspects that we will identify. And finally, I will share with you what I call the dashboard for environmental management system ISO 14001. It's a tabulated form of aspects impact register, very convenient and conforming to this version 2015 version of ISO 14001. Okay, let's take a look at the chronology. A word of reminder though, if you already have a consultant or trainer for the ISO 14001, please consult them, please listen to them and seek their advice, okay, when you do this. Now, here we are. When we talk about identification of environmental aspects in the entire endeavor to implement ISO 14001, the process is over here. There you are. Look, if you ask me, It is the very first step in the promulgation of an environmental management system for any particular organization. Why? Because environmental aspects is what is being managed by ISO 14001. Remember the definition? It is about managing environmental aspects. How? Fulfilling compliance obligation and addressing risk and opportunity. There you are. And all this, in terms of the context, look, needs and expectation of interested parties. This is conjuring to compliance obligation. Client, there you are. Legal, it's all covered. Okay, so I hope that is clear for you. Now, once we know all or identify all the environmental aspects from our organizational processes, the various departments, various unit processes, what we got to do is we have to evaluate them. Evaluate them for what? Evaluate the severity, the significance of environmental aspects from these respective environmental, evaluate the environmental impacts from all these respective environmental aspects. How significant is the impact caused by the release or the involvement of all these environmental aspects? So we have a list then of significant environmental aspects. At this point, we sum everything into this document. What we call this aspects impact register for our entire company, pending the based on the scope of activities for our certification. Okay. Now, at this point, this company is already having a clear picture of their position in environmental management. In other words, they know what are the environmental issues, concerns that they have got to manage. Which one is complying, which one is not, which one is marginal, which one has high legal liability, which one has other liabilities, and this is where they will be able to see their environmental due diligence accurately. All right, once they know this, only then this company would formulate their environmental policy, not doing the policy first. Identify the environmental aspects first. Okay, and with this register too, they will use this aspects impact register, or I call it the dashboard, to formulate their environmental objectives based on what they could afford to achieve. All right, and then they can develop their more narrower objectives, which we normally call environmental targets, specific, precise targets for to complement their environmental objectives. And these are all considered intended outcome. And once that is done, it's from the objective that they develop what is called their environmental management program. It's a very important map, a very important so-called route. Who in this program, who do what, when, and how, and what resources are needed. It could be monetary, it could be man days, man hour, it could be investment in certain equipment or investment in certain research or researchers involving external parties like universities. It's all there. And ISO 14001 version 2015 call it planning action to achieve. They have included the word to achieve, not just an environmental management program, which is regardless of whether we could achieve or not achieve. And when we achieve, okay, we highlight it in audit, but when we can't achieve it just before the surveillance audit, we amend legibly the environmental management program into a later date. This is not what ISO 14001 intended us to do. What they intended is those are environmental management programs that will complement what we want to achieve and what they call intended outcome. So objectives, targets, and environmental management program complements intended outcome. Do not change the word EMP, objectives, targets. No, don't have to do that. Intended outcome is a philosophy. It's not a technical term. It's a philosophy. It's a principle philosophy, if I may say that. And the intended outcome has got to include this: enhancement of environmental performance. We have to display our performance if it can be improved, and we want to improve it. It shall be reflected in our objectives and target and environmental management program. And also compliance obligation, the fulfillment, the endeavor, the effort, and most importantly, the commitment to fulfill all compliance obligations, not only the law, but involves agencies, governments, suppliers, contractors, subcontractors, vendors, etc. All interested parties, which or those who have got some obligations with us, and this obligation is a two-way traffic. We are obliged to the client, and the client is obliged to us. Okay, and that obligation has got to be fulfilled. And also, it has to include in this intended outcome principle that we achieve our environmental objective. It has to be reflected. These are all the intended outcomes. So why we're discussing this? Because initially I want to show you where the identification of environmental aspects is over here. There you are. So this is the first step. Got it? Okay, so let's take a look at the input-output analysis, the methodology that we use to identify environmental aspect. Here we go. I have picked one sample and one example, which is a solvent recovery. Why I pick this? Because I support recycling. Deep in me, I still believe that waste doesn't exist, and for that reason, this is just an early stage of resource recovery. So solvent from this company is being what they call recycled, is being recovered using this sort of, I think they're using thermal oil heater type of evaporating the solvent, and it is condensed using condensate and etc., and they get the recovered solvent. It used electrical energy. Now let's take a look at the input-output analysis. What comes into this process is the input aspect. What comes out, what leaves this process, is the output. Look, something can be confusing, but don't worry, we won't be wronged. Take a look. What is this? It is a waste solvent. Got it? In Malaysia, it is scheduled waste, SW322. It is a waste. When the word waste comes out, what comes to our mind is it is an output, right? Correct. It is an output from the production process as waste solvent. And instead of this company decided, instead of signing it for paying for this disposal, they decided to purchase this solvent recovery plants and do their own recycling on site, in house. Now, for this recycling plant, for this recycling unit, let's call it that way, SW322 waste solvent becomes an input to this solvent recycler or solvent recovery system as an input. Got it? So how does it interact with the environment, and what sort of environmental impacts it would incur from waste solvent? To answer that, we got to look at its life cycle perspective upstream, meaning where does it come from? So this solvent was from production, correct? Okay, but in production it is an output of the production, and in the input of the production is a fresh solvent. Okay, and that fresh solvent comes from, eventually, that is another second stage of life cycle perspective. It comes from the supplier of solvents. Further on, another stage, it comes from the manufacturer of solvent, which is the petrochemical company. Further stage, it ended up as fossil fuel, which is being extracted from natural resources. And the more demand for fresh solvents in this case would lead to an environmental impact known to many as resource depletion. So that is how waste solvent SW322 interacts with the environment. Of course, in between those interactions, as it is interacting, air pollution, sludges, slurry, smell, noise, vibration is emitted. But eventually it interacts with the environment and causes resource depletion. There's a lot of hundreds or perhaps thousands of interaction with the environment and causing various types of environmental impact. So we go right to the end, the right end, upstream end of its life cycle, which is resource depletion. I hope we get it, okay? And then this, on the other hand, the output of this solvent recovery plant is the recovered solvent. And this makes my day happier because it is an output aspect of this solvent recovery. And what happens to it, we look at the downstream of its life cycle perspective. What happened is that this recovered solvent is being reused in this company, and therefore the interaction with the environment is the demand for fresh solvent is less, is displaced volumetrically, quantitatively by this recovered solvent, and that would cause less demand for resources. Thus, the environmental impact is resource conservation. There you are. Okay, I just give one example because I want to show you the dashboard, and I want to keep this video short before you all fall asleep. And this thermal oil, please think about it. I want you to think and write down some answers in the comment column below. What do you know about the heating elements? What do you know about electrical energy? This is simple. So what are these are the impact from defected heating elements and the impact of heat. It's just a few of the array of environmental aspects from solvent recovery. Okay, when you do it in reality, you're going to have quite a list of environmental aspects. So this is the dashboard that I've been talking about. It is the environmental aspects impact register. So I have it in this format, and of course we have the first column, activity, Okay, please make sure you do it this way. Some of you have been doing it this way since day one, which is good. Keep it that way. Aspect is over here. Okay, and we have environmental impact over here. This is the impact. Okay, and we have all the aspects listed down, their respective environmental aspect impact listed down, and this is the aspects impact what they call criteria and rating, magnitude, severity, etc. You can read it there. Importantly, what I want to show you is for this ISO 14001 version 2015, we have included here what risk and opportunities in our dashboard. And also I have included in my recent work, since in fact we have done this, some company have done this, we've done for them, they want to do it in the year 2010 and 11, we're beginning to do this, but some companies declined. They want to have environmental performance here, because I have been using ISO 14031 for environmental performance evaluation technique, and it worked very well. And this is MPI, stand for Management Performance Index, representing the management performance in the environmental management system. OPI is the Operational Performance Index, whether we are meeting our target objective, whether what we are doing is on par with what we are supposed to achieve. And the environmental conditions index. For example, in this case, if the purchase of solvent is fresh, solvent is less, it scores high in the ECI. Okay, so these are environmental performance that we have it, plus risk and opportunity in this dashboard. Please consult your respective consultants and trainers, and hopefully your consultant or trainers they have a better format than this. So far, this format has been tested with 17 different types of industries, not 17 factories, different types. And each type of industry we sampled 2 or 3 factories. It worked perfect, but it is tedious when it comes to the aspect impact evaluation criteria and rating. That is a bit tedious. Okay, that's about it for this video. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, subscribers, viewers, and supporters. I wish you in bahasa Melayu, semoga dikurniakan kesenangan, keselamatan, kesejahteraan, kebahagiaan, dan kejayaan kehidupan di dunia dan di akhirat. Until we meet in the next video, inshallah. I wish everybody, whoever you are, wherever you are, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.